Hello everyone, this is Clay with DigiFactors Animation. How is everyone doing tonight? Hope you're doing good. Okay, first I want to say that in my PayHip store account, my PayHip store, the Survival Pack, if anyone had bought a copy of the Survival Pack, which you see right here in front of us, uh, I have realized that I have put the wrong copy of the folders into that pack. Uh, See, the way I work is when I create things, I put it in another. I put everything I create in one folder. Okay, and I start off by making objects in an object format. I don't make both FBX and objects. I create object folders first. Okay, and then I'll go back and once I get everything that I want to make done, I'll go back to each one and I'll size it up in the modeler, position it into the right position, and that way when you import it into the character's hand or in his back or any part of his body, it will be in the right position facing the right way. Well, uh, when I went back to the store and downloaded the pack and opened it up and then imported to a character, I realized the gun was bigger than the character and I couldn't size it down because it was already still too big, even after I sized it down. I said, I be darned. I think I put the wrong folders in the wrong thing. Uh, what I'm trying to say is, if you happen to have been the ones that bought a copy of the survival pack and you import an FBX file, um, you would notice it's so small you can't see it. That's because when I converted them to FBX, I didn't size them up yet, and you could say that was like my work in progress folder. I got it confused. I need to find a better way of doing things, I guess, so I won't get things mixed up. And again, I'm sorry for those who bought the pack and come across that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and reconvert everything, size them up, and then put them in the right position to where when you import the guns, stuff like that into his hand or her hand, it will be in the right position in his hand the way it should be, or the backpack will be in the right position when you import it on his back, so forth. And once I get it done, I'll re-upload it. I'll replace that one. And for those of you who bought the pack, once it's in there, the update is done, you should be able to download it. If not, then let me know, and I'll send you the pack by email or something like that. So again, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I put the wrong folders in there. So, uh, since I didn't, because once I did that, once I put the folder into my PayHip account, I deleted the original folder. So I have to go back in that pack and resize everything up and then update. So yeah. So that's what I did with this gun and this flashlight that you see sitting on this table in front of the character. Um, so I'm in the process of fixing everything. Okay, with that said, and the apology was sent to everyone who bought it. Like I said, I'm sorry. Now I'm going to show you a little tutorial on how to get this character to interact with these objects, the gun and the torch or flashlight. Now, as you know, MovieZoo, the creators of MovieZoo, they didn't add the feature to where a character can interact with the objects. Now, there's an action thing for the character called object, and it makes it look like he's holding an object. That was the only thing they did. So, so I guess that feature is going to never ever be added. But fear not, I'm here, And I'm going to show you a way around that. Because technically, I think the creators of Movie Zoo had this in mind to do it this way, and that is using keyframes and visibility for each object and the character to make it simulate that the character is picking up an object or interacting with an object. So, I'm going to show you how to get this character to pick up this pistol and to pick up this flashlight. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import a second gun and a second flashlight into his hands. And then we're going to put them invisible. Okay, so we're going to right click on the character and go to edit. And then we're going to go to arms. Now I want the pistol to be in his right hand. We'll click right hand. And then we're going to import. Now you'll have to direct it to your survival pack folder to import the object. So we're going to look for, I'm going to use pistol 2. I haven't fixed pistol 1 yet, and it's actually the same pistol, so I may just delete that out. So let's click on pistol 2 and then open that up. And once the gun is imported into his hand, you'll notice that the gun is in his hand in the right position. So just give it a minute, second, or whatever to import into his hand, and I'll show you. Okay, now you see the gun is in the right position in his hand. So now we're going to do, first, once that gun is in his hand, go to its properties right here, and it should automatically, the property should automatically open up once you import it into his hand. See this right here, visible? We're going to uncheck that. Now the gun is invisible, and it is ready to go. All right, now we're going to go to the left hand, and we're going to go back to that folder, and we're going to look for torch. Where's the flashlight? Torch. Oh, let's see, and right here, and this is the other one I've already fixed, so it should be in the right position in his hand. Like so. See there? And that was the way I intended it to be. Right now, on the torch properties, we're going to uncheck visible. Now, it just looks like he's got his hands in a fist. So now, once we got all that done, we're going to move the character a little bit closer to the table. Okay? Now, the next step was we're going to add 2 actions to the character. The first action is a point forward, and that basically with his right hand. So, keep them selected and go to prepare. Okay, go to action, and then we're going to select point forward, which is already there. So we'll just select point forward. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and switch to direct. All right. We're going to expand the timeline a little bit. And let's start right here. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we're going to animate his head like he's looking down at the gun. So let's do that right now. Like so. Well, let's kind of like move it a little closer. And now let's, right after this action there where he's moving his head down to look at the gun, we're going to add the point forward action. So let's go to direct and then actions. Let's record it. Right there. Okay. Now let's go back to timeline and the tools. Now let's move that a little bit closer to the head looking down. Okay, so we'll drag the timeline to a point to where it looks like he's reaching for the gun. Right about there. Now, let's turn the character and let's put him a little bit closer, right about like that. Let's see. We want to make it look like his hand is not actually going through the table. It won't really be too noticeable when you do it like this. So now that looks good. Now we got it at that point right here. We're going to add a cue point. That will let me know when to make the gun in his hand visible and the gun on the table invisible. Okay, so now keep everything the way it is. Don't move nothing. And right click and go to prepare and go to properties. Okay, now we're going to select Joe and pistol 2. All right, and once the pistol 2 is selected, you're going to go to track. See how it says light, middle, one color? So we're not going to choose none of that. We're going to choose visible because that is what we're animating, the visible. And once you got that selected, let's go to animation and select keyframe. All right, now switch back to direct. Add a keyframe right at that cue point there. Don't move nothing. Just add a keyframe right there. And once you do that, check current. Now, the gun in his hand is visible. Okay, now, don't touch nothing. This right here, the way I'm showing you, you won't get lost to what you're doing. So now, we're going to click on the gun on the table. We're going to right click it, go to edit, and then we're going to go to, oh, I'm sorry. Let's bring that back. I goofed. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the gun. We're going to go to prepare. All right. And then properties. Okay. Instead of light metal 3 color, we're going to go visible. The animation should go to keyframe. And then let's switch back to direct. Now, add a keyframe at that same cue point. And then uncheck current. Now, let's drag the keyframe slider back and forth and see what it looks like. Okay, now, you may say it doesn't look like he's actually picking it. That's because you can still see the outline of the gun, because to our eyes, we can still see the gun there. It's just transparent. But not the camera. So I already have a camera in place right here. And if you notice that the camera is already pointed down at him. Now, the gun in his hand is invisible at the moment, and so is the flashlight. We can see it with our eyes, but the camera can't see it. All right? Now, if I slide back to that moment, and let's play it, looked at the gun, and he picks it up. Voila. It looked like he picked the weapon up. Okay? Now that he picked the weapon up, we want him to look straight ahead like he's pointing the gun. Okay? So, he can't be looking down while he's aiming. So, let's fix that right there. And let's go to direct, and we'll go to his head and make him look up. Push record. Whoops. Well, let me do that over. About like that. Okay. Now let's see what that looks like. There we go. Okay, now he interacted with the gun, he picked it up. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the flashlight. And we're going to move that timeline slider right at the end of that last head look, uh, you know, action there. Let's kind of spread that timeline further that way a little bit. Give us more room to animate. Okay, now we're going to keep it right there. And we're going to have his head look down at the flashlight. Okay? So let's direct that. Well, we're already there. So let's direct that head looking down at the flashlight. Okay, right there. So he's looking down at the flashlight. Now it's time to get him to pick that up. But before we do, we have to add an action. This is the second action to the character. So let's go to prepare action. And we're going to go right here. And you can see I already have left hand selected. So we're going to just select left hand. That. Okay. Now we may need to, well, let's see. Turn them a little bit like that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and switch to sorry. Let's switch to direct. I almost got tongue tied there. And let's start recording that action. Right there. So he looks down at the flashlight. He waits a little bit. And then he grabs it. So we'll kind of like, let's get over here and let's move that flashlight a little bit to where that hand's at. Right about like that. And we'll just put it right here. Okay? So, now, back to the timeline. Well, let's keep an eye on the camera. And let's move it to the point to where he's reaching for the flashlight. Well, it looks like he's reaching for the flashlight. Right there. So let's add a cue point there. So that way it will let us know when to do the visible trick. Okay. Now, let's right click on the character and go to prepare. And then properties. Okay, now we're going to select torch in the attachment. Select torch. And then in track, we're going to select visible. Now, in animation, keyframe. Switch to direct. Right at that cue point now. Add a keyframe and then check like so. Now, with the flashlight, so right click on the flashlight and let's do the same thing. Prepare, properties, the track, visible, and in the animation keyframe, switch to direct, and again at that cue point, add a keyframe, and then uncheck current. All right. Let's see how that looks. Like so. Now let's go back and play the whole thing together. Looks down, picks up his gun, looks at the flashlight, and he picks it up. That's it. That is the trick on how to get a character to interact with the objects where they can pick them up. I hope that helps you. And that's my trick. So I taught it to you. And I hope that helps you out on whatever you need to do for your characters and the object. And again, to those who bought the pack, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back and fix everything and make it right. And I will let you know when the pack is updated with the fixes. Well, that's it. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Y'all don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And y'all have a blessed night.